This video is going to tell you about the conditional tense. It's going to tell you how to talk about what would happen in French. As a quick side note, if you've already watched the video on the future tenses in French, then you're going to find you'll be able to do this one really quickly because there's very many similarities between the conditional tense and between the future tense. That means something will happen. So have a look at these four phrases, again, some of which I'm sure you'll have seen before. Je mangerai, il mangerait, nous mangerions, and il mangerait. I would eat, he would eat, we would eat, and they would eat. Think about pronunciation. Je mangerai, il mangerait, and il mangerait. Three of these actually sound exactly the same on the verb. They all mean for something that would happen, and that would is indicated by an ending added onto the infinitive verb. You see manger, 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 ending in AR, just as we find it in the dictionary, and we've added on an ending. That is what indicates the would. And as always with tenses, that ending changes every time we change the person. So this is a guide to forming the conditional tense in French. So the meaning is would. You take the infinitive verb, like jouer, or finir, or vendre, and you add the correct ending. So for je, for I, you add AIS. Je jouerai, I would play. Or nous finirions, we would finish. The only thing about RE verbs is that you have to take the E off before you add your ending. Here's some examples. Je jouerai, AIS, I would play. Elle jouerait, AIT, she would play. And ils joueraient, they would play. This tense is really easy to form in as much as we're not having to do anything for the many verbs with their infinitive. We just leave it as we find it in the dictionary, or leave it as we've been given it on a vocabulary sheet. We add something onto the end. So the steps for forming this tense are quite simple. You take an infinitive verb, here's the example, visiter, and you add the correct subject and ending. So for je, you're adding AIS. Je visiterai. Or for il, you're adding AIENT. Remember, it might look weird, but it's just pronounced A. Here's a list of common infinitives that cover ER, IR, and RE, and these can be adapted, much like the future tense that you saw in the previous video, to say what you would do. I would visit, or we would listen, or they would stab. Je dormirai. I would sleep. The would is just indicated by that AIS on the end, and the reason it's AIS is because we've got je, just like we have in our table. And if we change the person to dormirai, dormir, your infinitive, stays exactly the same as it was for the je form. It's just the thing at the start and at the end that's changed. And actually here, the ending hasn't changed because je and tu share the same ending. Il dormirait, he would sleep. We've changed to il, so therefore it must be AIT. The infinitive's still the same. Nous dormirions, we would sleep. And il dormirait, they would sleep. Again, we've got dormir in the middle, we've added il and et either side. If we change the verb, j'écouterai, it's still je at the start, and we've added AIS to the end. I would listen. Nous attendrions, we would wait. The only difference from what we did before was this was an RE verb, so we took the E off before we added our ending. Il poignarderait, he would stab. As we can see from the table, for il, we had AIT. For il, we had AIT. We've just got our infinitive as we've got it in the list below, or as we'd find it in the dictionary. Now, the same as with the future tense, the conditional tense has many irregulars. And if you've already noted them down or you already know them from the future tense, you're in luck because they're exactly the same stems. They're exactly the same irregulars in the conditional tense as they are with the future tense. The only difference is you put your conditional endings on rather than your future endings. So you kind of got a 2-for-1 here. If you know these stems from the future tense, they're going to be the same stems in the conditional as well. And what I mean by that is that instead of just adding an ending onto the infinitive, you have to actually change that infinitive into something else before you add your ending on. So, être, which means to be, you can't just take the E off and add EIS if you're talking about je. You can't say j'ettrai. That's horrible French. It doesn't really make any sense. You've got to change être into SAR, to serve, before you add your ending. Je serai, I would be. Avoir becomes aur, faire becomes faire, devenir becomes deviendre, je deviendrai, pouvoir becomes pour, devoir becomes devre, vouloir becomes voudre. You know this one. Je voudrais, add your AIS and your je at the front. I would like or I would want. And j'irai, I would go. Je at the front, AIS at the end. This is what those all look like with their conditional endings. Je serai, I would be. So SER our stem for to be, and we add our je and our AIS. For the irregulars, our endings do not change. Those endings we saw on the previous slide, they stay exactly the same. It's the thing that we add those endings onto, the stem as we call it, that changes. There is no way for us to be able to work out these irregular stems. Unfortunately, they are something that we've got to commit to memory. And that's why I picked those verbs on the previous slide, because they're the ones that might come up most often at GCSE, or they're the ones that are certainly most useful in saying the original things that you will all want to be capable of saying in French and in your writing and say in your speaking. Thank you very much for watching this video on the conditional tense. In the comment section below, there are some exercises at Languages Online for you to try and practice alongside your notes, or without your notes if you're really confident, to practice the conditional tense, both regulars and irregulars. Thank you very much for watching.